Hi everyone, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to use Microsoft Excel, one of the most useful applications ever created for the computer. You could use it on Windows and you could use it on Mac computers. And it's been around since 1987. Now, if you've never heard of Microsoft Excel, it's a spreadsheet program created by Microsoft, and I'm going to show you how to use it exactly from scratch here. If you don't have it yet, and I'll show you how to check your computer if you have it, Microsoft Excel is available on this website. I'll put this website in the description below this video. You could click it and come over here and then click try it for free. And you could get the home version or the business version. Now, some computers already have it, so search your computer first. If you don't have it, come and get it from this website. And it's part of something called Microsoft 365. This is a bundle subscription that you pay yearly for. And you get Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, all in one bundle, and other applications from Microsoft as well. You could also check your computer on a Mac. There's a search icon right here. On the Windows, there's a search bar on the bottom over here. Just type out Microsoft Excel. And if you have it, it will show up for you in your search bar. Just press enter to open it. Again, if you don't have it, get it from the website that I have in the description. So if you don't see this page and you're on the home page, just come up to new right here because I'm going to show you how to start with a new document. This is what's called a blank workbook. This is where we're going to get started. But the other things you see over here are called templates. And there are some of the things you could do with Microsoft Excel that are pre-designed for you. So if you want to make a list, for example, there's an Excel document for that. If you want to track your tasks, if you want to do a mortgage calculator, payoff, budget, all of that is already created for you in these forms. Now, I recommend you don't start with these and start with a blank document and understand how Excel works. Then you could come back to this page under the new tab and open up some of these documents, some of these templates to learn more. There's also this search bar. Let me look up budget here because there's a whole bunch more that you didn't see on that page. So if you look up budget, you'll see all these different budget templates. I'll press X here and let's double click our blank worksheet because I want to show you a blank document here. Okay, so let me show you around a blank document so you get a good understanding of what you're looking at. And then we'll go slowly step by step on how to do things that are very important in Excel before we get to the more advanced tricks at the end of the video. Let's look up here first. You have your top menu right here. And the only difference between Mac and PC is on a PC, on Windows, you have File on the left side of Home. So you see File, Home, Insert, and on Mac you see Home and your file is up here instead. That's the only difference here between Mac and PC. Now let's pay attention to up here. This is your menu bar on top and these are different tabs. As I select different tabs here, this ribbon appears. So you see I select Home, this thing called the ribbon appears. These are all the different things you could do to a document under the Home tab. If you go to the Insert tab, you see the ribbon changes. Now you have a whole bunch of other settings. Page Layout has its own settings. All these different tabs have different settings. One thing I really like is right here, Tell Me. You could search for things instead of looking inside of all these menus. So if you want to make something bold, for example, you could just search for that and get it from over here. We're going to use this later. Very, very useful, this Tell Me What to Do option. But a lot of the things that you'll do here come under the Home tab. And when you start working with formulas, more advanced things that you could do in Excel, you'll use the Formulas tab quite a bit. Let's go back to Home. Let's look at our page here. Let me explain the verbiage here that you need to know anytime you use Excel of how a page is laid out. A page here in Excel is called a sheet. Let me move myself over here so you can see right here. It's called a sheet. This is sheet 1. If I press the plus sign, I get sheet 2. And I could have many, many sheets under a Excel project. The whole Excel project here, this whole page with all the sheets, is called a workbook. Okay, so you can see it's called book number 3 here. So you have your workbook, and inside of that workbook, you have multiple different sheets or just one sheet. You could double click to name your sheet as well. I'll leave sheet 1 and sheet 2 here. Again, pressing plus will get you more. Then you could zoom in and out. This bar over here, let me zoom in here. So I'm around 200% now. You could see now I got this bar where I could go left and right. And I got this other bar where I could go up and down as I zoomed in. So I typically work in more of a zoomed in view. It's easier for you to see as well. Then let's look at this section. This is what you need to know. A through Z over here. Let me scroll. You can see A through Z. If I scroll out over here, you can see Z, W, X, Y, Z. And if you even keep going, you get A, B. This is infinite. So you have infinite number of these boxes over here. Let me go back to my 200% view to kind of explain to you what you're looking at. So these A, B, C, you see I'm clicking on them. These are called columns. So these are called columns. And 1, 2, 3, and all these. And if you scroll down, you'll see infinite numbers as you need them over here as well. These are all called rows. So you have columns and you have rows. And inside of that, you have these boxes called cells. So knowing how Excel is laid out is important. So you have cell, that's this box. A through Z and so on is called a column. And 1 through 100 and infinitely after that is called a row. Now, each of these cells has a name. You could see that name over here. It starts with the column's name or letter, and then it ends with the name of the number of the row. Okay, so A1 is what I'm on. Let's go over here. Now I'm under D4, and you can see the name over here. Now this is important to know because when you get to formulas and more advanced things that Excel is really designed to do, you need to know the name of a cell so you could apply that name to your formula. We'll get into that in a little bit. You could also select a bunch of different cells at the same time. So if I select one and grab it and drag, I could select a bunch of them at the same time. So now I selected D4, and then I could look at my last cell, G8. So my selection is from D4 through G8. Now this is again something to understand because selection and individual cells are going to have their own set of names like I just mentioned. Okay, let's start typing and filling out our cells over here in our Excel document, and then I'll show you also how to style and make it look nice. So typically, let's go to A1, our very first cell, and I typically put the name of my document here. So this is going to be a family budget. I'll name it that and I'll press enter. Now you could see this family budget, the word budget moved into column B over here, but it's actually not in column B. This is just how it displays. If I go to column B and if I double click to go to the column, I could put a name here and press enter. And you could see column A still has its name there. It looks like it's cut off, but it's not. If you prefer to see what's in the whole column, you could actually come between the two columns, A and B. You see you get this arrow. You could go ahead and stretch it out and you could get that to show you the whole thing. So I typically do resize these just to help me a little bit better to see what's inside of each one. Let me go ahead and select this one and press delete. So family budget is the name of our file. Then we're going to go to the second column here, A2. I typically leave this blank. And then I go over here and I'm going to type in the month of the year. So I'm going to start with January here. And let's go with the mouse, click over here and type in February and March and so on. You get the idea here. Now let me show you how to move here without using the mouse to select a different section. If you press tab, it moves you this way. See, the tab is moving me to different cells. If I hold down shift and press tab, it brings me backwards. Now this is more of a power user option, but you should know it because it's going to be a lot easier than clicking this way, especially when you're moving quickly, tab and shift tab to move left and right. Now, how do you move up and down? Well, enter moves you down, shift enter moves you back. Enter or return key on your keyboard does that. And here's a really, really useful shortcut. Instead of typing out all the months of the year here, you see this little square right here that appears in this corner? Let me actually zoom in a little bit more because I want to show you right here, this square. Grab it and drag it to the right and let go. Look at that. It automatically created the rest of the months for me. So September, let me keep going here. There we go. I don't need January of the following year. I'll press delete. But that's a really, really useful option. You could also do it with dates. So if I type in 1/1/2025 and press enter, I could grab the bottom corner here and go this way and look at what it's doing with dates. It fills in the rest for me. Now I don't need the dates in this case, but I did need the months up here. And instead of typing them all out, I just use that really, really useful shortcut. So I filled out this row here, and then I'm gonna fill out this column over here with my budget items, okay? So we have rent as a budget item. We have electric, gas, food, vacation, cell phone, car. And you get the idea here, but I spelled this wrong. I put card instead of car. So let me type in car, and look what it's doing. As soon as I started typing, it replaced what was there before. I just wanted to edit what was there before. So let me go to edit here and undo typing. Anytime you make a mistake, you go to edit and undo. And this is something to pay attention to. Any of these cells, when you select them, if you start typing, it will replace what's in here entirely. But if you double click it, it brings you into the cell. So selecting a cell just selects the cell, but to edit that cell, you got to double click to go inside of that cell. So in this case, it didn't matter all that much. I could double click and just delete, or I could have just typed out my word. But a lot of times when you have a lot more in a cell, that does make a difference. So I'll press enter there, and there we go. So selecting a cell is going to let you just select it, which is going to be useful when we get to styling, but to edit it, you got to double click to go into the cell. Okay, so now on the intersection where I have my months here, and on the intersection where I have the name of what I'm going to budget for, this cell right here is going to go the number that I'm looking to put in. So for January, the rent is going to be $1,800. So I'm going to type in $1,800, and I could press enter to move down, and it's going to bring me to electric. Let's say that's 120, enter to move down, and 80, enter to move down. So you get the idea here. You could just type in any number here. And if you wanted to move forward, I'll select this cell and then press tab and type in 1800 this way and press tab again. You also have the same option over here with this little square. You could drag it and you could see it copies the same number over. So since the rent is not changing, it's always going to be 1800. Instead of typing 1800, this is how I made sure I copy it over. So I typed that in. So you get the idea. In any cell, you could type in any words you want, and you could type in any numbers you want. And then we'll get into formulas too at the end of the video, which are very, very powerful. So this is how I would fill out all my different boxes. And now let's get into styling our document. So for styling our document, typically, let's go ahead and select the cell. So the family budget item here, the title. I'm going to come up here to the home tab, the home ribbon here, and I have a bunch of options. I could change the font. I could change the font size. I'll change that actually right here. I'll make it 18. You can see it affected that. So then I could change it if it's bold, italic, or underline. I could do all three if I want to, and I could go ahead and give it a color. This A changes the color of the actual font. See that? And this one is a highlighter for the background. So I could choose any colors for that as well. And if I want to extend this out, I can make it bigger. So I could get a nice look out of that this way. And in some cases, I want to center this for my whole document. So if I select it and press center, this is only centering it on this cell right here. So if I make this cell bigger, you could see it's center on this cell. But if it's not center in the whole section, I want it to be center on this whole section. So let me bring this back to show you how to do that. You could actually select a bunch of these cells like this and merge them to get rid of this wall between them, okay? This is over here too. Merge and center. This is the option over here. This lets you create this kind of look out of your Excel document. So this is perfectly now centered in my document, and all those walls are gone. Now this is just one big cell now. Instead of all these little cells, this has become one big cell. Very useful merge and center option over here. If you want to change things into a dollar symbol, you could select everything. So I'll select this range of cells here and I'll press the dollar sign and you could see it changes the formatting for me this way. I could always affect, instead of individual cells, like clicking them like this, I could do this to a whole row. So I'll select a whole row or a whole column even. I'll select this and I'll press it and look what happens. It changes the whole row, and any number I type in over here from this point forward and press tab will have the same effect. Okay, so that's very, very useful. You could select rows and you could select columns to make changes to the whole section over here, and it will be an infinite change to this column. Now let me add a new box over here. I'm gonna call this total. This is gonna be how much in total I'm spending in January. And I just made up these numbers, but just to give you an idea. Now I'm gonna show you formulas, but that is a more advanced usage of Excel. You could actually use Excel exactly as I showed you to create these kind of spreadsheets. But what's really powerful are all these formulas. Let me go to the formula tab up here. Basically what the formula does for you is it does calculations for you without you actually doing the math, okay? I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it here. Look at this option up here. It's called Insert Function, okay? Let me select it. And it brings up this massive box of functions. Functions are basically math equations. So you could see sum is the most recently used, or you could search sum up here. And what sum is basically addition. It's just adding one thing with another thing or a group of numbers. I'm gonna double click this, okay? And he put a function over here for me. The function is B3 through, stands for through, B9. That means everything from B3 is this box, through B9 is this box, so this whole column is gonna get added. Now if I press enter, look at that. It just did the math for me. It added all these and it gave me the total. So this is my total now on this row, and this is the cell for my total. Anytime you could click on it and you could see this right here. This says equal sum B3 through B9. That's why it was critical to understand the name of cells in Excel, the name of columns and rows and how they intersect. So when you get to function, you understand how they work together. Again, I don't want to confuse you with this because this gets a lot more advanced than just basic addition, but function is what makes Excel really, really powerful. Okay, now I could do the same thing over here. Let me go at the end here. I'll put total over here. And let's say I wanted to know for the whole year, how much am I paying for rent at $1,800 a month? Instead of doing the math myself, I could go ahead and add them all up. So again, I'm gonna double click on the sum function or come up here to insert function, double click it. Okay, so if I press enter now, 21,600, he added 1,800 times every month. So 1,800 times 12 is 21,600. Very, very simple to use, but I know it could get a little bit confusing when you're using functions, especially if you're a beginner. But I wanted to kind of set you up for success. So if you want to learn more about Excel at this point, I definitely recommend watching more videos. I'll put some resources in the description as well. And one more useful thing I'll show you here. Anytime between these rows here or these columns, you could double click on this and it automatically adjusts things for you. So if you wanted to automatically adjust and not drag, you could double click and it will make it perfectly sized. Same thing with this, and you get the idea. The rows also work the same way. So you could resize your rows this way too and double click to resize them back if they're too big or too small. Okay, you get the idea here. Now we're not done yet because we do have to save our document. Anytime, since this is a computer app, you have to save what you're working on. So you could come up to File and Save As to save this for the first time. And everything, the file format for Excel documents is XLSX. So this is what you want to select. It's typically the top one on this menu. The old one is just XLS. So if you come across documents from the old Excel, you'll see that and you can go ahead and save them this way. Now, once you do save it, it's going to save the whole workbook. So if you have multiple different sheets here, it's going to save them all. So I worked on sheet 2, but sheet 1 is blank. I just want to point that out because sometimes when you save it and then you open it and you see a blank page, you might get scared that you lost your document, but it might be just on a different sheet because it saves the whole workbook, as I mentioned in the beginning. Inside of that could be multiple sheets. If you only have one sheet, then you don't have to worry about it. For example, I'll just go ahead and delete this sheet. And I only have one sheet here. So now if I go to File and Save As, I'll name this book 3 is fine. I'll save it. And I'll close this now. And if I double click to open it again after I saved it just on my computer here, you can see it opened that document. I'm on sheet 2. I don't have any other sheets. You could also go to File, and remember File is next to the home icon here on PC. You could go to File and you could press Print on here. If you wanted to print this document, you'll get this kind of look here where you could select your printer and press Print. And finally, you could go to File, and then you could export this as well by pressing Save As and changing this dropdown to PDF. A lot of times you want to send someone a PDF, not an Excel document. Maybe they don't have Excel on their computer. This is really useful. Again, Excel is recommended for the first time you save as because then you could always edit it. PDF is not editable this way, so I recommend you file, save as an Excel document, come back and do a file save as a PDF. So you have 2 different files on your computer. And that's your crash course on using Microsoft Excel. And I know formulas can get a little bit confusing, especially if you're new to it. But since that is the fundamental use of Microsoft Excel, I wanted to really point it out in this beginner's guide, but really dive deeper if you want to learn more. I'll put resources in the description of this video to make things simpler for you as I have more advanced guides on this topic. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you check out the other videos on Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and everything else Microsoft Office has to offer. Please give it a thumbs up and I'll see you next time.